before we keep going over it, but I was of interest. I found the Have Your Say poster where initially we saw it was a bit of an environment still stuck in the corner, but only later did we notice that it disappeared entirely. And what it's been replaced with is two people with enormous aspirations for rural land, which we genuinely share your concern about. Conservation Ecologist, of course, is deeply committed to protecting the environmental values of the whole of the northeast of New South Wales, including Byron Shire, and the people involved with our association are ecologists of long standing, and we interact with people all over the Shire. We're interested in protecting those values because our community is interested in protecting those values. Politically, we see the manifestation of that locally. In New South Wales, currently, we see an amazing attempt at erosion of those values. So our concerns are genuine. We've been involved with over a long period of time with planning, as in this case, that extends from southeast Queensland right through northern New South Wales with bioregional approaches to conservation. But as you can see there, we have a reasonable amount of remnant vegetation in the upland country, but we have a real paucity of lowland habitats. Those habitats have been severely destroyed over time and reduced. The consequence, of course, for wildlife and for habitats of plants has been very significant. Remembering that this is one of the biodiversity hotspots on the Australian continent, and is next to the wet tropics only in terms of moist habitats and their significance on the Australian continent. We are also looking here at World Heritage quality forests. These local landscapes are rich in biodiversity, both the biodiversity that we can see and the biodiversity that's embedded in it, both genetic and the smaller life forms that we don't see so easily. It has global, continental and regional values. It has a long evolutionary history that links the Australian continent to the Gondwanan landmass. All of that is rafted onto the Australian continent in this area and is still living. Those values and that history is still extant in our landscape. That's what Council's interested in protecting. That's what we as a community are interested in protecting. We have high conservation values spread around our landscapes, up in the back of Main Arm and other places like that, where this is just rural land that happens to be forested and has very high values, including close to the edge there, riparian values. We have coastal habitats that still have very high values. We have a lovely infrastructure of national parks and nature reserves, which complement the activities of our rural land managers. We also share this space, Byron Shire, with species that are in many cases endangered and threatened by the consequence, as a consequence of past land use activities and the reduction in extent of their habitat. There are many threatened species in this area. In fact, the highest incidence and concentration anywhere in New South Wales. Unfortunately, both the federal and state legislation to protect that biodiversity is being watered down and doesn't work at fine scale. Death by 1,000 cuts is still a future that faces most of those species. We all value good water and the protection of water catchments and riparian habitats. We all applaud the efforts of people both to regrow and protect native vegetation, including regrowth vegetation. We applaud the efforts of the community, as does Council, in terms of the community efforts for community conservation and environmental repair. They are integral to both good land use management principles in farming activities, as well as the broader aspirations of the community to secure better outcomes for all species. Small areas of land, of course, sometimes avoid the mapping process. This one happens to have one of the most endangered species in Australia, let alone New South Wales, just up the road here in Main Arm. When it comes to mapping, of course, we get broad-scale approaches, which Landcare and others have been involved with in seeking nominations for lowland subtropical rainforest as an endangered ecological community. And if I go looking for my place in there, that's what I find. Mapping, of course, resolution-wise, is an imperfect tool, but it's a beautiful way to represent our concerns, our interests and our values. It's an important step in the process. Council has secondary steps which allow everyone then to fine-tune what we think are important values and how we should go about protecting them. So in the end, protecting what really matters. Questions that have been out in the community really go to the heart of it. Does Council have a role in this? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is yes, they do. A very important role. Their role is a reflection of our values. We elect a council to look after our values, to protect our interests, right across the board. Our concerns are perhaps a little more to do with environment, a little less to do with the development aspirations of that young couple there. But nonetheless, Council has the invidious task of balancing those. We would prefer to see it balanced in favour of natural systems and environments. Thank you.